Welcome to the Value Builder Podcast, where we focus on real estate with a value-add mindset. Real strategies, real operators, real outcomes. Let's dive in.
Hey, Value Builder community. Today, you are here for a treat. I have an amazing guest, Bateh, and he is with the ARCO design. He is someone who you want to have in your corner. If you're building buildings, warehouses, this guy can talk process, not only sell, he can talk cost, speed, construction. He doesn't have to bring it up to your team, and he can go talk hours upon hours about how to make construction more efficient and how the project to make it successful. He's one of the leading guys in ARCO design and build. They build for many institutional sellers. And if you're driving the up on highway and you're looking at 5 boxes, some of them are built by them. So Tyler, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Let's
Thanks
start
for having me,
with briefly, who are your story, how you end up in commercial real estate, and briefly about yourself. And I would like to dive in, of course, in construction and process and cost and speed and all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. No, thanks for having me, Saul. And as you mentioned, work with ARCO Design Build, actually located here in Jacksonville, Florida, where I've been born and raised. I've been here my whole life. Graduated in 2012 with a bachelor's in civil engineering. And then I got my master's from the University of Florida in civil engineering. Spent my first year or two out of college working on design, doing some FDOT bridge design, sheet piling design, really just kind of getting into the civil engineering side of things. And then had my first opportunity to kind of get into the construction management side of things with a traveling project management position. Moved out to Dallas for a few years. I ended up in Minneapolis for about a year and a half. I found myself down in Miami working on a project for about 3 or 4 years, and eventually wanted to find myself a way back to Jacksonville. So I started working with ARCO Design Build about 5 years ago, and enjoyed it ever since. Working on, everything from small bay warehouses all the way to 1.5 million square foot, logistics distribution centers. And we work, pretty much all over the country. So it's been a interesting journey that I've had so far outside of school and in my career, but love what I do and really enjoy working with folks like you and other developers and operators.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Now, so I think maybe let's start about your company, ARCO Design. I think there is probably a story to unpack over there. From my research, it started in the 90s, and right now it's a few billion-dollar company. That meteoric success of growth. And is there story and there are key points? Why do you think ARCO is so successful compared to other GCs? I mean, what are the key points if you can share with us?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, we did start back in the 90s and started in St. Louis, eventually branched off into Atlanta, and then from there just spun off all different kinds of ARCO entities. We've I think up to about 49 different offices now, $6 to $7 billion worth of revenue each year. And really what makes us successful is just the way we deliver our projects and the kind of service that we provide our clients. We try to pride ourselves on not being, a typical general contractor. It's going to come in and kind of take orders from day one and not provide, open dialogue, feedback and suggestions. Like we see ourselves more as a partner than we do see ourselves as a typical GC. We like to get involved very early in a project before there's any plans developed, before sometimes the land's even bought. We have developers or capital groups reach out to us and say, hey, here's what I have. What can I do with this? We put together some layouts, some high-level budgeting early on, just to kind of see if the project's feasible. And I think where our success is and where we kind of differ from other GCs is that value that we're able to provide so early on in the process. Like we don't want to get a phone call from you when you've got a fully developed set of plans and a permit already in hand and say, hey, go build this for me. Because at that point, all the value that we provide on the upfront, we're now, that's all gone away, and we just sort of become another general contractor, which is nothing wrong with that. But where we've kind of built our reputation and built our success is being that true design build partner early on in the project, which is why I think 85 to 90% of our work is repeat clients, the same clients coming back to us because they just had such a good experience from the first project to the second project, and they want to go and repeat that, in different parts of the country.
Yeah. My also another observation is that yeah, definitely I see the see differentiation that you involved early in design. But what I'm catching is that your design is in house. A lot of times, as a developer, right? I'll work with two firms or two people. One is GC, and another one is designing. And where there's a flop happens, then it's no one's fault, right? Or no one.
Sure.
And this is kind of almost a little bit different way, right? Is that also, do you think, one of the main key features?
It is, yeah. So as a traditional design build firm, we are when we're hired by a developer, we are taking on the design as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we refer to them as our trusted partners instead of in-house. It's more of our trusted partners that we use on every project, right? Same architect, engineers, MEP consultants, fire protection consultants, sometimes even civil engineers. And we're able to provide a whole package to our clients that say, hey, here's everything, right? To design it, we're going to build it, we're going to go execute and deliver and hand you over the keys. And what it does is the reason why clients like design build so much is because it sheds risk off of them.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of Saul, let's say you decide to go build a project and you go hire an architect that works in a firm here and a structural engineer that works here. They're all kind of, and this process works, but I'm just trying to explain
Mm-hmm.
why we think the design build process works better. They're all kind of developed, building their drawings in like silos, right? They're not coordinating with each other. And at the end of the day, you're going to get a set of drawings, structural, architectural, MEP. It's going to go out to bid. You're going to get numbers all over the place. They may be prone for change orders. And at the end of the day, the contractor that's going to take those drawings is going to come back to you if there's a discrepancy, if there's a measurement missing, if there's a detail that shouldn't be on there. And they're going to say, Mr. Owner, your architect drew this. You owe me, X, Y, and Z, or it's going to take me X amount more time to do this. Whereas on the design build side, where we own the design, the finger pointing it's internal, right? And there's no finger pointing back to the owner. So you're actually shedding some risk off of you. And it allows us to go out there and execute these projects. Now, we want to be taking on these projects if we didn't know what we were doing, right? So it's there's always going to be a mistake here and there. There's always going to be something that might have got left off the drawings, but that finger pointing all happens internally. Typically, the owners or developers are not even knowing about it. There's not understanding what kind of cost is involved in it. The only time really that there should be a change order is if the scope changes, right? That's typically how these design build projects work.
Yeah. So from the, let's say, process perspective, and I'm educating myself and probably audience. So does
Yeah.
it seem like, let's say, there's a head design person, and he subs it out to local architects in the municipality, or there is right away design is driven by the local architect in that region, or is that really almost like in-house driven design department in the company in ARCO?
So when you say the local, like, what do you
So
mean?
let's say from my perspective, the way I think, I was designing smaller size buildings in the past. Usually
Mhm.
it's a local regional architect who drives design, and there is a GC, right? And you are a conduit between collaborating between those two folks. But I feel in your company, it seems like there is a design process, and that's directed maybe to local architects or engineers how to execute it. So meaning in your office seems like he's being set the vision for the project to execute, instead of it's coming from someone who you just hired the first time. Is that
Right.
how the process works, or and I'm just
Yeah.
trying to understand it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we have, we have trusted architects and partners that sit all over the country. So if your project's in
Mhm,
a certain area, whether if it's in Ohio, if it's in Florida or Texas, right, more than likely we're going to have an architect that is licensed obviously in that state and is familiar with that state and those jurisdictions work on the project. So they have the knowledge, the local codes, the local relationships with the local AHJs and permitting departments to go execute. Typically, our civil engineering, we will hire somebody that is local to the area
mhm,
because they typically do hold very strong relation with the local jurisdictions, the fire marshals, etc., and it makes the process a little bit smoother. Some of our owners like to hire the civil engineers direct, which is completely fine. And it's another, again, coming back to shedding risk, it's another thing where we're able to take that from the owners and put it under us. And it really helps us drive the design and eliminate as much risk as possible early on by us being in charge of all the design, making sure it's all coordinated versus having an outside civil engineer coordinate, later on with our architects. And sometimes there may be some lost translation there. So we really like to kind of take that all on and just, drive the whole bus.
Yeah. Totally. Where do you stand, just curious, on vertical integration as much as possible? And it's, for me, it was in the past double-edged sword. I think there's certain competencies you really want to go in-house, and certain competencies you want to, as much as possible, to do third party because you're getting better quality. And it's almost like and I don't know what is that a happy medium, right? Where do you, or some folks, especially at your scale, I've seen they want to go in house as much as possible, and some of them, no, you don't get quality if you go in house. You have to. I mean, so where does ARCO stand, and what's your philosophy on that one?
Yeah. I mean, it really depends, right? I mean, obviously, yes, as companies get larger, they try to become more and more vertically integrated, right? They try to bring more services in-house, whether that's, civil engineering or whether that's there's some GCs out there that own their own steel fabrication shops where they're actually fabricating the steel. In our case, with Arco Design Build, we do have a kind of an internal concrete company, right? And so we will rely on them to go work on projects for us, all over the Southeast and Northeast and the Midwest. And it has its successes, right? And there's always learning curves. But the nice thing about having, that in-house capability is to be able to help control risk, help control costs. And that is one of those scopes that we've seen success with vertically integrated. As far as going and opening up your own steel shop or your own, electrical company or plumbing company. I mean, those trades are typically you're hiring folks that are from the area, right? They have the relationships with the local inspectors, the local jurisdictions, and you really try your best not to step on those toes there.
Yeah.
You kind of want to keep that going because they know the area, right? They know what to expect. And it's just one of those things where, maybe one day all 26 divisions are fully vertically integrated in every construction company, and you no longer have some contractors, you just have the GC and they're just doing everything. And I'm sure 50 years from now that may be the case, but I think you kind of have to pick and choose, right? And I think concrete's a great one to perform.
And I think you guys in-house in concrete, right? Or no? Are you?
We do. Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We don't do it on every project where it makes sense, and we try to where we can, and we've been, pretty successful at it. So it's been good, and they come in and help with design, value engineering early on, right? If there's a project that's kind of getting close to penciling, and we just say, hey, let's all sit down together and figure this out and see if we can make this work for our client and make this project, move forward. So that's where we see a lot of benefits from it.
Every week, I read hundreds of commercial real estate articles from across the US and around the world. I connect the signals, break down the Fed moves, and share real case studies, not theory, from my 2 decades of real estate experience and actively doing deals right now. My team and I spend 15 plus hours on a weekly basis and deliver this to you for free. You can read it in 5 minutes. So every Sunday at 9:07 a.m., you'll get major commercial real estate news that matters, one Fed insights that matters, one deep dive case study from me or one of our operators who already made the mistakes, so you don't have to. Thousands of commercial real estate operators and investors read this newsletter, especially in the value add space. And don't take my word for it. Check out hundreds of reader testimonials online. Plus, when you subscribe, you get instant access to a Performer underwriting tool, the same one we use every single day to underwrite value add deals. Now, this is not for you if you're looking to get rich quick schemes, or if you're looking for theory and hallucinations, not real numbers, or you're not serious about commercial real estate. But if you want real tactics, real deals, real results, no bait and switch, go to joinvaluebuilder.com and subscribe for free. And see you there, guys. Now, you mentioned that you provide lump sum pricing, and we didn't go to the full project yet, right? But from the conversations, I kind of sense that you guys don't shy from this, right? And of course, for us developers who are in value add space, the main killer is change orders and not being on time, and it's always a contentious conversations, but it seems like your guys are able to guarantee it. I guess what makes you different to be able to do that? What compared to other GCs? What do you think that would be the main the main advantage for you guys?
I think for us, it's more how much risk you're willing to take as a general contractor, right? And light industrial warehouses, logistics, distribution centers. We've built a ton of these, right? There's over 300 plus warehouses going up at any time that we're doing. We have it figured out where we're able to tell our owners pretty early on, Mr. and Miss Owner, here's the cost. This is what it's going to cost you. Assuming that,
Hmm.
we don't go out there and dig up a massive, oil tank that wasn't shown on the geotech report. We don't run into unforeseen conditions. We don't have 5 months of just crazy weather. We're able to pretty closely go out there and say, this is what it's going to cost, per square foot. This number's not going to change, right? It's locked in, assuming that there's not major issues going around the world, if stuff's happening with oil, if there's a war about to break out somewhere, or if there's, strikes happening at the port. Obviously, those things can have an impact, right? And as long as forgoing all of that to the side, we're able to come in there pretty early on in the process, usually within the first 3 to 4 weeks of actually seeing a site and given a
Hmm.
parcel to work on and say, okay, Saul, it's going to cost you X dollars a square foot, right? And as we get further along, as we start to develop the design, as the owners decide, hey, you know what, they want to change their programming. I want more glass on the front, or I want my doors to be insulated. Those things get fine tuned. Those can change the budget. They update the budget, but we work together towards that process to eventually get to a final contract, a final number where they say, okay, go. And then we go and execute the work. And typically, unless you're changing the scope or unless we run into something that's, an unforeseen condition, or if we're delayed by something that's, out of our control, let's say, there's a local worker strike and nobody decides to show up to work, right? Those are things where out of our control and we're going to, typically have to have a conversation about it. But if it's, just a normal project and we're just going about our business, and if we mess something or miss something on our end, it's not something that we can go back to the owner for because we're the design builder. We designed it,
Hmm.
we're procuring it, we're building it. Unless you come to us and say, I want to add an office or I want to change the size of the building by 20,000 square feet, then you're not going to really see a cost change until
Hmm.
those kind of things happen.
Now, on the permitting side,
Yeah.
how much developer still has to be involved, or that's completely hands off? Where it's at on the
Yeah.
permitting side.
Yeah, I mean, permitting is something that we take on, right? So typically, our developers will. There's two ways of doing it. I mean, sometimes they like to handle the permitting with the civil. They want to handle the building permitting, and that's fine. Or we take it on ourselves and we say, look, we'll handle all the submissions of the documents. We'll handle gathering up all the invoices, whatever's required. We'll have the meetings with the local town, with the fire marshal, and kind of take that burden off the developer, right? So it depends on the developer. Some are want to be hands off and they just want to say, ARCO, I want you to go do everything and let me know when I have my keys and the job's done. Then you have some developers that are just like, I want to be involved in every step of the process. I want to attend every pre-construction meeting, and they're more than welcome to. And we like those kind of developers because they want to understand the process, right? We like both kind of developers, but the ones that want to get involved and really understand, like, how are you guys executing this and kind of making it look easy, like they want to see that and they want to kind of be behind the curtains, and we welcome them to. We always welcome our clients to attend our kickoff meetings, safety meetings, pre-construction meetings. We have typically monthly or weekly OAC meetings, and they're in attendance. But then there's some developers and clients that are, like I said, they don't want to be involved. They're hiring us because it's the easy button. They press the button and we hand over the keys in, 6 or 10 months, whatever it may be.
That's awesome. So on that note, from your perspective, what do you think makes a good developer versus difficult one?
That's a good question. I mean,
Yeah.
every developer that we work with, I think is a good developer, right? Because they
Okay.
choose to work with us, right?
Okay.
That's my answer there. Without getting into any further, comments
Makes
on
sense.
that. If they're choosing to work with us, they've made a good choice and they're a good developer, right? I mean, there's developers and clients and owners, no matter who you are, there's always going to be learning curves, right? And one of the most difficult things to do is going into like a new jurisdiction. Like, let's say you're based in Florida, but you want to go develop in Texas. Like there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. And we actually try to help kind of bridge that gap, bridge that learning curve and help our developers be successful. So that's, for us, it's every developer we work for is a good developer. Obviously, developers that pay on time is always a nice thing. We like to make sure we're getting paid on time so we can then pay our subcontractors on time. And that's, something that ARCO really prides ourselves on is being able to turn around and pay these subs in a timely manner to where they want to come back and work for us, right? They want to give us preferential pricing over other general contractors because, if you're a subcontractor like an electrician and you're pricing a deal against in your ARCO is asking for a price and XYZ Construction's asking for a price, and ARCO pays you in 30 days, while the other contractor takes, 60 to 90 days to pay you, who are you going to give the better pricing to, and who are you to give that competitive edge to? It's going to be the ones that are paying you on time. So that's what we try to pride ourselves on.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Now, ARCO, I'm assuming that you work with build to suit and spec both, right? With both customers.
Yep.
Which one do you have more? So the project me and you are working on is going to be on my first spec industrial. I've done specs in residential. I could not handle myself doing build to suit in residential side. So the question to you: do you work with more spec or build to suit, and which one is easier, or which one is more complicated, or better suited for you guys?
Yeah, it's really, both of them, right? We like them all. So we do have a lot of developers and clients that like to go spec. It really depends on the market, right? When the market is interest rates are a little bit higher, maybe leasing has slowed down, there might be a higher vacancy rate in certain areas. You'll see the spec sort of start to taper down a little bit and not be as much, we don't get a lot of the calls for pricing for spec developments may tick down a little bit, and you'll see like the build to suits still being around. There's always going to be a need for build to suits. The local, conduit company that's going to go, want to expand into another 500,000 square feet. Like there's always going to be a need for that. So we like them both. There's really complexity wise, every deal has its complexities. The building is the building, right? Typically your site is going to be always your biggest challenge, depending on the site, the topography, where the utilities are at, what the local, if the fire marshal's requiring certain things on site, hydrants every so many feet, or you have to get a loop road around the building and there may not be room for it, right? Those are where you'll start to see your challenges. But from what goes inside the building, a spec is just going to be, some lighting, maybe a spec office, a couple of dock levelers if they want to do that. Build to suit's going to have probably some more power, maybe an overhead crane, some more lighting. Maybe they want to go ahead and put racking in. Complexity wise, it's nothing out of our wheelhouse. It's just, it all depends on the project. 2,000 square foot spec buildings right now, and also a 1.2 million square foot build to suit, in Southern California. And they both take about the same amount of time of work, right? Yeah. The size of the building at the end of the day, we don't give preference to one size of the building over another size. We kind of give it our all on any size project, and we want to deliver for that client because the client that's building a 50,000 may call us next year to go build, a 500, right? So we want to make sure we're given that same level of effort and commitment to every project, regardless of size, regardless of scope. You're getting the best of the best from the ARCO, project manager and ARCO superintendent, no matter what the projects are. So that's why we always say, it doesn't matter the size, it's going to take the same amount of effort from our team to get it done.
Yeah, that must be engineering prowess of ARCO. I remember my days, I still build some spec, small multifamily in Chicago. And it's also easy button because we use the same architect, same expediter, same pretty much design. And comparing to building build to suit was a nightmare, always different things in different corner. And it's probably twice as longer.
Yeah, of course.
That was my experience.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that's ARCO engineering prowess, having systems and processes in place where actually there's no bottlenecks like that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So now, I would like actual dive in spec analysis, which I think it's a market temperature. If you can disclose that, you have an easy pass button. So where do you see right now still most specs going on if we take industrial, like in which asset class and in which region there is still most specs going on, which in my mind, there is still most leasing velocity going on. And let's say in Chicagoland, we have quite a lot of spec boxes vacant. I think there is some overbuild going on. But do you see in the country there is still a big spec need, or you still see a lot of you know, bullishness from developers to build spec in some part of the country, and which asset class?
Yeah, I would say, for us, I mean, I work mainly in the industrial asset class, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not personally not involved much in multifamily or
Mm-hmm.
self-storage or entertainment, mainly all light
Mm-hmm.
industrial. And yes, we do still see some bullishness on the spec side from developers and from clients. It's really all over, right? I mean, it may not be as much as it was, post COVID during the big
Mm-hmm.
e-commerce boom. That's kind of slowed down a little bit, but we still get calls, every week or every day for people asking us for pricing or design build proposals for spec warehouses, and it's really everywhere: Florida, Texas, Virginia, Tennessee, up into the northeast part of the country. I mean, really, there's not a limit of where it's at, and I think all of our offices are still seeing spec activity. I will say that there's a lot of spec projects that may have been planned, to start last year that might have gotten pushed. So it's not necessarily the activities stop. I think some developers have kind of pushed the brakes a little bit and said, "Hey, let's kind of wait.
Mm-hmm.
Let's wait out this. Let's wait out the admin change. Let's wait out interest rates to fall a little bit. Let's kind of wait things out and let's kick off the project in 2026, right? Instead of kicking it off last year." So we have seen some projects push, but overall the sentiment's still pretty bullish, right? I would say there's it's not like the phone is just stopped ringing. I just think it's either projects have pushed or developers are kind of being a little bit more strategic on where they're deploying capital at the time and saying, let's go and instead of building two buildings at once, let's build one building first. Let's get a lease and then
Mm-hmm.
we'll go build the second one, which is nothing wrong with that. I think that's a smart strategy.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, one thing I want to also ask you about the speed of the construction. There's two factors always for us, right? It's time and budget. So, in terms of speed, anything you can pinpoint with some developers, even let's say the two developers hire you, but for whatever reason, one developer takes X amount of time to build, another one is twice faster. Is there a secret to that? Is that because they're choosing the same design, or is they just focusing because in one locality, or is there some other things or skills we have to develop as developers to enhance that speed of the completion of project besides you guys?
Sure. So when you go to a site and you start the day you put a shovel in the ground, really the construction process is pretty straightforward, right? Between the site
Mm-hmm.
work and the building, to go out there and build a quality product and to build it safely, right? So you don't always want to be the fastest when it comes to building a building. You want to make sure you want to be the safest. You want to be the safest and you want to have the highest quality. And safety obviously is our number one priority out there. We want to make sure that all of our guys and gals that show up to the site every day get to go home to their families at the end of the day. So that's the most important thing. So can you get something done in record time by working everybody 7 days a week and doing things that you shouldn't be doing? Of course you can, but that's just not the way we do it. And where we pick up the time is in that early upfront process where the design build process versus the typical design bid build process really saves you at that time. And we've seen, and I think I put out recently on LinkedIn a document that kind of showcased design build versus design bid build, and where we're able to give kind of that early price indication, upfront feasibility, jump into design right away while we're designing, work towards a final contract, a final number. And then by the time that's all done, we're ready to go out there and execute the project. Versus where sometimes you'll design it, you'll go bid it out. The developers realize, hey, we're over budget. Let's go redesign it. You're spending more money, spending more time. You finally select a general contractor. Now you got to go work out a contract with them, and it may not be somebody you've ever worked with before. This all adds time. So I think on the recent post that I did on LinkedIn showed us, I think it was between 30 to 35% faster when it comes to the design build method versus the standard design bid build method. And all that time's being picked up in the early upfront process. The actual construction time itself is going to be pretty much the same. Now there's some things that we can go out there. We'll sit down with our superintendent and look at the project strategically and say, okay, what is the best way to phase this project? And that's really comes down to experience, right? That comes down to us hiring, the best of the best superintendents who want to go out there and figure this thing out and say how, I want to be able to deliver a good quality building in a safe manner, but also maybe beat the schedule by a few weeks, right? And at the end of the day, the owners are going to love that. The faster they can get their product to the market, faster they can get leases signed, they can get tenants moved in. So speed to market is really key for us. And that speed doesn't necessarily have to happen with the construction phase. That speed can happen at any phase of the project.
It reminds me one of the first conversations I remember I have at Tio. Shout out to Tio who told me one quote. I remember the speed of the construction. I was building my first D flat. Speed of the construction is the speed of decisions up front. Speed of
Yeah, that's
decisions up
true.
front.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can think of right now another situation, right, where we are redeveloping one facility in Cleveland, and we kind of said, no, let's do an earthwork, and we decide how much concrete and how much asphalt we're gonna do. And we thought it's only a decision for a couple of days to huddle up, but then add so much complexity. You have to pause and you have to decide again. It's actually things like only 2 days, but you probably could add another right now 4 or 5 weeks to just for the
Sure.
for the small, not even pivot, but decision in between.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's great points. While we're at a half of an hour, I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah.
For the folks who wanna find you, who wanna talk to you about building warehouses or working with ARCO, where can I find you?
Yeah, they can email me or call me. So they can shoot me an email, tbateh@arcodb.com, or they can find me on LinkedIn, Tyler Bateh, TYLERBATEH. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I post weekly about you know, industrial construction, industrial building, developments. So those are the best ways to find me. And I'm happy to help, happy to collaborate, early on, and whether it's just a conversation wanting to get to know each other and kind of build that relationship, build that trust. We're always telling people, like, don't call us the day you decide you want to build. Call us 2 or 3 years in advance, because we want to be part of that decision making process and build that relationship early on to where we actually become partners. So by the time we go and build something together, we've already known each other for, a year to 3 years. So don't hesitate to reach out and use us as a resource at any time.
Awesome. Thank you, Tyler. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend, and I'm looking forward to do another call at some point. And
Yeah.
probably by that time, we're gonna build a couple buildings.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to it, Saul. Thank you, and have a great weekend as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Value Builder Podcast. For more strategies, stories, and episodes, head to valuebuilder.co or subscribe on your favorite app. Always make it better than you found it and keep adding value. See you in the next one.